Alright, now the forearms are not complete until we do one more thing. You think we've studied enough? Just you wait. There is absolutely more. So, we've kept it really simple. Okay, we've got the extensors, been drilling this in your brain. We've got the flexors. Okay, you've got the ridge muscles. And now we have this extra little group, the pollicis muscles. Pollicis muscles. We'll just call it that right now. Okay, these are going to be muscles that are interacting largely with the thumb. Okay, that's their main job, is interacting with the thumb, making things work. So for this, I'm going to separate these guys out. I'm going to separate them from the forearm group. We're going to keep them as a separate piece because I want you to be able to see their insertion and origin, and they're really buried deep. So the flexors were hard for me to explain, and they were hard for you to grasp all the different overlays and things like that. We throw the pollicis in there, we're going to be in trouble. So let's duplicate this. Okay, and we're going to rename it. All right, so we've got that renamed and ready for us. Let's hide the group. I'm going to say select this top little guy there. I'm going to delete everything else. So just delete hidden. And then you could even take the move brush and really just squash this up. Just make sure symmetry is on, because we did turn symmetry off. And you can remesh that if you want. We just need something so that we can work with it. Remember, we're going to work with the right hand, which is what's usually used in textbooks and whatnot. And we're going to start with the flexor side of things. Okay, and so we're going to start with what's called the flexor pollicis. And can you guess what would be next? It could be either longus, it could be brevis, it could be profundus, superficialis. It's going to be either top or bottom, or something like that. In this particular case, the longus. So what are the origins of this? Where is this thing originating from? Now, the flexor pollicis longus is going to be along the radius, and I'm going to say it's in the lower half. So I'll just create a grid temporarily. Alright, so we're going to divide that in half, and the pollicis, the flexor pollicis longus, is going to be kind of bridging, but the bottom portion of that. So it's going to be all of this part of the flexor and then some of that tendinous fiber that's connecting these guys. That whole area is going to be the origin for the flexor pollicis longus. Where's the thing going? What's it connecting to? Take it all the way down, right there, to the thumb. So it's flowing right along the thumb. Okay, but then here it makes a change. Heads over, crosses between the thumb and the index finger, and then heads straight up. And what's really important to know, in fact, let's get that clear. And I'll thicken the line a little. I'm going to head towards the middle of that bulk that we created, the middle end. And so let's just do this in white. That's going to be the overall shape, this kind of flattened cube, if you could say, with a tendon flying out of one side of it. Although, really, I mean, yeah, I guess that's going to be about the way That's about the way. You could say take it like this, but it all comes out to about what we drew earlier. So that's going to be the shape we create. Let's get to it. Curved tubes is selected. I'm going to just grab from here and then along the side. Lower it, probably about 15. Make sure it's connecting like that. And let's adjust this while it's still a curve. Whoops. Yeah, even smaller adjustments. Okay. And then, I keep doing that. You'll probably do the same. See how it changes based on size too. Gotta be careful. Run it down. There you go. Okay. Delete the curve, so on the stroke palette, delete it, and boom, boom, B, then IN, and then inflate, and we're going to give this that insertion area. So move brush, we've got enough there with inflate for us to kind of grab it a bit. So I'm just going to set up the general structure. Okay, it doesn't really grab a ton from the ulna, it's more grabbing from the space in between the ulna. So keep that in mind, the radius in the ulna, I should say. And it's definitely grabbing from that radius. So I'm going to grab the center and be moving this so it's intersecting with the radius. Then I'll move that over, and that creates that natural bevel that we ended up having to sculpt on before. So this is much better. Okay, and then don't forget, same thing here. That's my center. And I need to get to the point. I'm going to be looking down. Like that, yeah. Don't let it go too much in the back, right? Because there's a bunch of other stuff that's happening here. But one thing I do is I'll use that same row of polygons and then I just line it up along the surface. Okay, if I do that right, then I can really easily just come in and say smooth this top part. Careful not to get these guys around the edge. And it just kind of naturally flattens them. Just got to be really careful, like I said, not to hit the guys on the edge. And if you do, you just got to shape it back. Just push that right there. Cool. 10 minutes, create that little tiny piece, but it's kind of important. Take my time. Still low res. All right, and that's going to be okay. So now let's go in and take a look at some of these other pollicis muscles that we really need to get our head around. They are going to all come from the extensor side from this point on. Almost all of it's going to be coming from here. So let's map this stuff out. Okay, and if you've got Times General Musculoskeletal Anatomy book, then this is going to be right there, and I'll even give you a page number. I think I've got it written down, 295. Okay, so 295 is going to give you this information in a schematic form for you to kind of work with from this point on. So we've got a couple of muscles that we need to be aware of, and we want these names in our head. Okay, for the most part, in this case, it's kind of odd. You have the end part of the name, right? Pollicis longus. Okay, so there is an abductor. Great, glad to know. There's also an extensor. And you already know we did the flexor. So there are these three parts. We've already got this guy. That's done in the front. The adductor pollicis longus, the extensor pollicis longus, and then we get a couple of others. So the extensor pollicis brevis, right? That's going to be one that we want to be focusing on. And then just it's tiny, okay? It's probably not even worth mentioning, but I want to make sure that we mention it anyways, okay? Just in case. All right, so let's block these guys out. The first one that we're going to block out is the adductor pollicis longus, because it's at the top of this whole spectrum. So it's going to be along this, coming down, you'd probably almost say above that flexor pollicis longus, right? Similar pattern where it is coming from the ulna, the tissue between the ulna, and going to the radius. Okay, then we've got this nice little chunk, just like that. Okay, this little chunk's going to be the extensor pollicis longus. And then we're going to have the extensor pollicis brevis. And just because we really need to fill up space here, right? You can't have too much space going on there. We're going to get the extensor indicis. So those are going to be this pollicis group that we're going to start to work with from this point on. And let's talk about where these guys are going. Unfortunately, I have to most likely move the screen to make this work. But let's draw we'll do it with green lines, taking this all the way down. First, the adductor pollicis longus. Okay, this is going to be coming down and flowing to the top of the thumb. That first digit right there. Okay, and then we're going to have the extensor pollicis longus. And if you remember, the extensor pollicis longus, the one on the other side, the flexor pollicis longus, that goes all the way to the tip of the thumb. So this one is going to come down. Okay, it's threading itself downwards. Down, 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 down. And then it's going to connect in and go to that last digit. Looks like I don't have to move. Alright, that's the extensor pollicis longus. Now the extensor pollicis brevis is in between these guys, and what it's doing is coming to that, well, just a drop down. It's coming to that second digit, just to the root of that second digit. So we've got a couple of insertions. We've got the adductor pollicis longus, we've got the extensor pollicis longus, and the extensor pollicis brevis. What about this other crazy guy? This one that's just filling up space in there. It's just flowing along the index finger. So make a note of these guys. Take your time, get these guys kind of sketched out, and make sure you know where they are. And then in the next video, we'll take a look at actually placing these guys.